The wedding was supposed to be a joyous occasion, but Margaret could feel the stares burning into her back as she walked down the aisle of the small country church. She kept her eyes fixed on Thomas, the rancher who had won her heart, but she couldn't miss the whispers, the barely concealed smirks from some of the guests. They thought she couldn't hear them. They were wrong. She was deaf, not blind to cruelty. Thomas's sister Clara had made her disapproval clear from the beginning. Now, as Margaret passed her pew, Clara leaned toward her friend and laughed, not bothering to hide her disdain. Margaret's hands trembled slightly as she clutched her simple bouquet of wildflowers. She had known this wouldn't be easy. Thomas had warned her that some people in this small town were set in their ways, uncomfortable with anything different. But she had hoped, foolishly perhaps, that on this day they might see past their prejudices. The ceremony proceeded, conducted by a pastor who had learned basic sign language just for this occasion. Margaret spoke her vows aloud, her voice carrying the slight differences that came from never having heard spoken words, but every syllable was filled with love. Thomas signed his vows back to her, his large calloused hands moving with a gentleness that made her heart swell. In that moment, nothing else mattered, but the reception revealed the depth of some people's smallness. As Margaret stood by the modest cake table, Clara approached with two of her friends. They didn't bother to face Margaret directly, speaking among themselves as if she weren't there. Margaret read their lips easily. She had become an expert at it over 26 years of life. Can't even speak properly, one woman said. Kind of wife will she make? Thomas could have had anyone, Clara added. Emily Patterson was interested. A normal girl from a good family. Margaret felt the familiar sting of tears, but refused to let them fall. She had endured worse. She was turning to walk away with her dignity intact when Thomas appeared at her side. He had seen everything. His jaw was set, his eyes blazing with an anger Margaret had never witnessed in her gentle rancher. Thomas took Margaret's hand and turned to face his sister. In the small crowd that had gathered, drawn by the tension, the room fell silent. Everyone knew Thomas as a quiet man, slow to anger, but when he spoke, people listened. Clara, he began, his voice steady but hard as iron. You and your friends have spent this whole day laughing at my wife. You think she doesn't notice because she can't hear you? But Margaret sees everything. She always has. He stepped closer to his sister, and the room seemed to hold its breath. Then Thomas did something no one expected. He began to sign as he spoke, ensuring Margaret could follow every word. You think, she's less than you because she's deaf. Let me tell you about Margaret. She runs her own seamstress business. She learned 3 languages, including sign language, Spanish, and written English. She reads lips in 2 languages. She volunteers every week at the children's home, teaching kids to sew. She took care of her dying mother for 2 years without complaint. She makes the best apple pie in this county, tends a garden that puts all of yours to shame. And she chose to love a simple rancher like me when she could have had an easier life in the city. Thomas's voice grew stronger. She is kinder, braver, and more capable than most people I know. She is better than all of you who spent today judging her. And if you can't see that, if you can't treat my wife with the respect she deserves, then you're not welcome in our home or our lives. The silence that followed was absolute. Clara's face had gone pale. Several guests looked down at their shoes, shame coloring their cheeks. Margaret's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of gratitude, feeling truly seen and defended. Thomas turned to Margaret, his expression softening instantly. He signed, "Are you okay?" She nodded, then signed back, "I love you." But she said it aloud too, her voice clear and strong so everyone could hear. The reception continued, but everything had changed. People approached Margaret with genuine smiles, some apologizing, others simply starting fresh. And as the sun set over the ranch, Thomas and Margaret danced their first dance as husband and wife. Moving to music only he could hear but they both could feel, proving that love needs no translation.